Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Mackenzie Davis. If you're new here, I am a Maryland realtor. I'm also a homeowner in Maryland and a current investor. I feel like I can officially say that now because I own 2 properties, which is crazy to say. But nevertheless, I wanted to come on here and make a video today talking to you guys about home buying and about what I did over the years to kind of prepare myself, because it wasn't something that happened overnight, and it was very intentional the way that I budgeted and looked at finances and did my taxes and all of that stuff, just because I knew that home buying was my goal at the end of the day, as soon as possible and as many as possible. So that's still the goal and that is what we're working towards. I feel like I'm in more of a stable place financially now that I have a full-time job and I'm able to kind of save more regularly and more consistently, and I'm not in grad school anymore and all of that good stuff. Before I get into anything else, I want to say, please ignore everything that's going on in the background. I am in the process of moving, so just don't judge. It's like a mess. There's a lot going on and I can't make it clean because I'm just living in boxes. So for now, you guys get this, the chaos, and then hopefully soon you'll have a pretty new backdrop to look at when we're at the new office in my new house, and that'll be at the end of this month. So without further ado, we can get into the content of this week's episode, which, to be honest, I don't feel like people talk about enough, because as I was going through this process and as I was going through my late teens, early 20s trying to get into the home buying space, I just realized that there's not that much content on the internet about what actually works. There's all these big words and jargon that's thrown around about real estate, and then people don't explain it, and they don't explain it enough for you to understand it as a first-time home buyer, let alone as a buyer at all in this market. It's just something that I want to clear up, because I think that everyone deserves to own a home. I'll say that time and time again. I think that that is a human right, and so whatever I can do to help access education, help people get that information, I'm gonna do it. First things first is the money management side of things. Buying a house is a cost, whether or not you're paying closing costs or the seller's paying them. There's gonna be a fee for the inspection, there's gonna be fees for the moving trucks, there's gonna be fees for furniture and all of that stuff in between. So you do need to make sure that you're saving regardless what it's for. I don't care how you save. I don't care if you have buckets in your room that you put money in, or you have 6 vaults with your SoFi bank account like I do, or maybe you work with a financial planner who handles all of that for you. I don't know, and it doesn't matter, because realistically, as long as you have a plan and it's working for you, then you're good to go. It doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all approach. Just because this is what worked for me does not mean it's gonna be what works for you. That goes with most things in life, but especially with finances, because no one person spends their money on the same stuff, and your goals are gonna be different than your neighbor, than your best friend, than your sister, your brother, etc. So you can't really be looking to other people for specific finance advice. Now that said, when I talk about budgeting, the one main rule that I think anyone can apply to their financial plan is that you should assign every dollar a job. And when I say this, I mean that when you get a check, you get a deposit, whatever it's from. It's your job, it's a commission check, whatever. You want to look at that money like it is each going to have a purpose, and there's not any sum of money that's left over that's just there. Because when you have money that just sits there, it burns a hole in your pocket. You think, oh yeah, I've got that $500 in my bank that I can just like do whatever with, and yeah, like I'll invest some of that eventually, but then you don't, because you just let it sit there, and then you forget, and then you go out to dinner, and then you spend it, and then before you know it, you have $2.50 in your bank account, and you didn't invest any of it, you didn't save any of it, and you have nothing to show for it. The other part of that is that I feel like when we have money in our accounts, we end up buying stuff that we don't want or we don't need, like consumerism. I am, of course, a proponent of this as well, but people are struggling in today's world with consumerism because they feel like they need everything and they need to have all these things. But if you take a step back and realize that sometimes the investment is more worth that new trendy pair of shoes or things that like all your best friends are having and buying, because it's not always greener on the other side. Like they might have all of those 10 pairs of new shoes, but they might be renting a house that's 2 times your mortgage payment because they didn't invest in real estate. So you have to remember that there's always different perspectives, but you have to do what is going to work for you financially. At the end of the day though, if you can make every dollar have a job, I think that you'll be a lot better off in terms of making sure that you are saving, because you're being proactive, you're taking care of it up front, and you're not allowing yourself to just spend it on whatever you want to spend it on. Part two about the money management side of things is I had a budget that I used ridiculously stringently. Like, I was updating that thing constantly, week by week. I had it on my calendar. I was making sure I was going in, accounting for every deposit, every single withdrawal, any money that I was saving, any money I was investing, etc. Because there was a time in my life when I was in college and grad school, I was paying for school out of pocket, completely like not taking out loans, and I was also trying to afford to live and then buy a house eventually. So I was like, I just need to sacrifice for this few months, this year, however long it was when I was finishing my degree, because I knew that at the end of that year, I would so much rather buy a house than I would have a new wardrobe or whatever it was that I could spend my money on otherwise. I was really grateful that I did buckle down and use my budget so religiously, and that I still have a budget to this day, because even if you're a millionaire, billionaire, gazillionaire, whatever, I think that you should probably still have a budget if you care in any regard where your spending is going and if you want to be conscious of the areas you're spending and things like that. I know maybe Jeff Bezos doesn't really care about something like that, but I do, and I don't want to be spending too much money on eating out, especially if I'm already going to the grocery store spending a ton of money. So that's something that I like to keep on my radar, let's say, and it helped me for sure in terms of saving, in terms of having more buying power. And on the flip side, it helped with my taxes, which brings me to point 3, that you should have an accountant. You should tax every dollar. And I feel like as soon as I said that, someone just ran away and was like, wait, what? Tax every dollar? I don't want to pay more taxes than I have to pay already. But listen, we have to remember what the goal in mind is, okay? I wanted to buy a house. I wanted the most buying power I could possibly have. And that meant that when I was a server, I was taxing my tips. I was getting $100 cash and I was taking it to the bank and I was depositing it. I was saving 20% of it in a different bank account so that when I went to do my taxes that year, I could tax everything. I taxed money I made from dog walking. I taxed money that I made from house sitting. I did so many different things in college to make money, and I taxed it all. And guess what? It was all accounted for on my taxes for multiple years in a row under professional services income. It increased year by year because, as things do, you get more skills and then you can charge more, you have more clients, people know what you're doing. So whether it was real estate, whether it was social media, whether it was dog walking or dog sitting or whatever, I was taxing that money, and I was working with my accountant specifically, letting him know I did not want to write off anything. Now, I wrote off a little bit here and there depending on what I actually paid for my business expenses, but I knew that the more that I wrote off of my gross income, the less that the bank was going to look at in terms of how much money I made that year and how much money I can afford to purchase a house. So I was tedious enough to plan ahead that when I started working, I made sure that my serving manager knew I did not want my taxes. I didn't want that money under the table. If they could count it and put it on my W-2, I wanted that. And they did do that. So just know that those things are options to you. And if it makes any more sense in your mind to do things that way, then do it that way. It doesn't hurt anybody. It actually just helps you and has more records on file for what your income has been and how you've grown it over the years, because I definitely have showed an increase over that time period as well. The fourth thing that I'll share is that I really do think that being a realtor has helped me a ton in the investing space, because not only can I represent myself, so that means I can schedule showings for myself, I can take myself to the showings, show myself the houses, I can write my own contracts, negotiate my own offers, and then on top of that, because I'm doing that work, I also get paid from the commission. So I essentially make money on the sale, and I get like those little behind the scenes perks of being able to see a house the second I want to, being able to take myself there, spend the time I need to there, and then on top of that, negotiate, because I negotiate for my clients like I negotiate for myself, and I will get you the best bang for your buck that I possibly can. Like, for example, you guys already know that on this house that I'm purchasing this month, the seller is accounting for around $44,000 of our fees, and that was all because I negotiated that from the get-go. And so I think that if you have someone on your team, and it could be yourself if you want to represent yourself, it does end up working out in your favor, and it becomes cost effective if you're planning to invest in a lot of real estate. Even if you don't want to sell real estate forever, if you're going to be representing yourself on purchases, it is worth it. And even though you have to pay a few fees every year, you still usually make more money in return, even if you just sell one house. In my opinion, if that's something that you've thought about, it really can't hurt, and it would just make your life a lot easier at the end of the day. And finally, the last thing that I'll share is that I have purchased all of my properties as primary residences, which I do believe makes a big difference in terms of buying power, because if you don't already know this, if you purchase an investment property, you have to put 20% down compared to FHA or conventional 3% or 3.5% down. That's a big difference. Obviously, it's like 17% difference in the amount of cash you have to bring to the table. And so as a recent college graduate who barely had any money but did have some money, I was able to purchase a house for less money down and didn't really have to worry about that investment piece. And then here I am a year later, I fulfilled what needs to be fulfilled, because in Maryland it's that you have to live in a primary residence for a year, and I've been here for about 16 months. So now we're free to go to purchase the next primary residence, live there for a year. Now I do foresee staying there for a bit longer at this one, but at least you know that that is a possibility and that you don't have to not be an investor just because you're purchasing properties for yourself too. That is really the 4 or 5 things that I feel like helped me kind of along the way, and things I might not have done intentionally in the moment, but in hindsight I'm like, wow, that really helped me, and I'm so glad that I did that, because I wouldn't be here without it. And as small as the things I shared might have seemed, they really, really helped kind of keep guardrails for me as I went through and went to college, finished my undergrad, went to grad school, finished that, started my first job in my career field as a therapist. And so there's just been a lot of freedom thanks to real estate, and I couldn't be more grateful. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this helps if you're a first-time home buyer, or maybe you're just preparing and trying to be in the best place you can when you're looking for your home. But whatever it is, I hope it helped, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Love you. Bye.